My name's Amanda. I want to welcome you to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing just a quick tutorial on how to make a center pull yarn ball like this one with just your hands. Maybe I should have picked the dog hair off of it first. So my grandmother taught me to crochet when I was about 7, and I haven't been 7 in a long time, but I didn't learn how to do this until just a few years ago, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I tend to prefer center pull stuff. I know some people like to ball yarn and then pull it from the outside, but I tend to prefer center pull. But I also tend to find that the center pulls will get kind of floppy in the middle, and I feel like when I wind it this way with just my hands, it's tighter. The opening on the inside is smaller and tighter, so it actually doesn't sort of collapse on itself as it gets used up. So I wanted to show you how to make one of these with just your hands. So this is one I've done before, and I have this yarn here, and I've actually got one of those cranky yarn winders, and I don't really like it. It makes the balls way too loose, and you can wind it really tight using this method. So you just drape it in your hand like this, as long as you want it to be coming out of the center of the skein or of the ball, because this is the end that's going to come out like this one, whichever end you're holding in your hand. So you just want to drape it in your hand however long you want it to be, run it along up the side of your thumb like this, and just start to wrap. And I don't recommend wrapping it very tightly at first. You want the part that's actually on your thumb to be kind of loose around your thumb, because as you go, there's going to be a lot of yarn on your thumb, and it will get pretty uncomfortable if you've got it way too tight in the beginning. You just wind it, and then as you go, you want to kind of, what I do is I kind of angle it like this, kind of like at a 45-degree angle, and then I go around the middle a little bit and kind of twist to go around the kind of make an X shape against what I was doing, and then just kind of flip back and forth. So I go like this, we're in the middle, like this, and you can just kind of hold it there as you pull more yarn off whatever you're working with. So you can just wrap it, and then you kind of turn. What I do is I typically like turn my thumb a little bit, because you don't want to build it. You can see it's kind of getting thicker here. You don't want to build it. I'm going to scoot it down a little bit. So it's like a football shape. So I'm just going to turn my thumb a little bit, and now do my sort of like 45-degree angle. I'm just holding this piece here the whole time. Do my 45-degree angle here, and then kind of go back around. So I'm just kind of alternating where I'm doing this kind of angled wrapping. Eventually it's going to get big enough that it's going to start to cover, I'm going to want it to cover my thumb. So I'm going to scoot this down just a little bit toward the tip of my thumb, because you don't want to just go and see how that slid, and it's just around my thumb, it's not around the ball. If that happens, you want to undo it and kind of go back. And you don't want to do a ball of yarn like just like that, just around the middle over and over again, because then it's not going to have a good shape, and it's just going to kind of not hold together as well. It's not going to be as sturdy. Okay, so now it's getting kind of big enough that I can start to push it off the end of my thumb. And this is staying, I'm not having to hold it in my hand anymore. It's just kind of dangling there. So I'm going to start moving this a little bit toward the tip of my thumb, and then start kind of going around the end of my thumb that way. Just vary the angle that you're going at here, and see now I'm actually almost going even like parallel with my thumb. I can angle it that much now that I'm going across the tip of my thumb, but you just kind of want to go back and forth with the shape. You don't want it to be too uniform. You don't want to wrap it the same way too many times in a row. I'm just kind of shaping this. typically I have a little more space and I'm not trying to just keep it under the camera, and I can kind of throw it. I don't know if you do this, but like just kind of toss it across the living room floor and let it, and it just, the yarn comes rolling out. That's normally what I do. I don't have cats, I have dogs, so I don't have anybody trying to chase it. I'm trying to do it on the table is a little more difficult. So maybe that's a piece of advice for you. If you plan on doing this, just toss the yarn across the floor. And some people like, there's a video on YouTube of somebody doing this with like a hand mixer with a paper towel roll. I think that would be, I've done it with a paper towel roll before, and I think that would just be a little too loose for my liking. I really like this method with just the thumb because it makes the ball really, really tight in the center so that it's not loose and doesn't collapse on itself as you get closer to the middle, or you get closer to the end of the ball and you have less yarn left. So now that I've got it a little bigger, I can kind of go around the middle a little bit more. Just want to bury it. And if you go in this, when you go this angle, it's sort of, you know what? I'm just going to toss it. I just threw that in the floor. We're just going to do it that way. The way that I know speeds this up a little bit. You want to be careful, even though I'm not having to hold this anymore, you want to be careful that you don't get it wrapped up in what you're working on. Much better. Now it's just rolling across the floor. I'm kind of using my pointer finger here, my index finger, to hold it in place as I change direction, as I change the angles that I'm rolling it in and winding it in. Once it gets bigger, you can overlap the wraps more too. You can see how I did quite a few there at that same angle. When it's smaller, it's more difficult to do that. I literally just kicked that across the floor. So apparently that is part of the magic of doing this, is throwing it on the hardwood. See how this bit is kind of loose there? You can try to unwrap and see if it was just a few wraps away. If it was, then you can just unwrap it and fix it. Sometimes you'll notice it pretty far past the point where it happened, in which case you can just kind of wrap over the top of it to keep it in place. All right, y'all, I'm going to call this good enough for you all to get the idea. So all you're going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and snip this because I'm not going to do the whole skein right now. Snip it. What I do, some people have different ways of doing this, but I just take the loose end, just wrap until I get to the end of it, and then I just kind of tuck it in behind the last few wraps that I did. Just tuck it in behind the last few wraps. And then it'll stay. So that's what I do. And then all you're going to do is pull it off your thumb. So I'm going to keep this pulled out, and then you just kind of wiggle it out. That's it. And there you have it. There is your center pull ball. And you can see, I mean, this, I don't know if you can see. Maybe you can't see. But this is very firm. This is very hard compared to, let me grab this out of the floor and I'll show you. So you can see these two compare. This one's really floppy and doesn't hold its shape very well. This one is very, very firm and very compact. So I much prefer to work from something like this. This is the same, did the same thing here, but obviously much larger. I did a much larger amount of yarn, but it was the same process. I just kept going. Then when I got to the end, I tucked in the end, and then this is what you end up with.